so we begin with episode number 10 of Lou Pickney Plays Total Extreme Wrestling 2020. What is this business? Oh. What in the world is that? I think it's my MP3 player somehow did a run-in over there. Anyway, no big deal. So, if you missed the last episode, don't worry, it's easy to get caught up. I should probably load it. This gives you the information. This uses the great Killing the Business 2020 database from Gary Wooder. Now, what is available now for that database will be more up to date. I think it was updated just like yesterday. So, I know Gary does a lot of hard work with it. He did a fantastic job putting this together from everything I've seen. And so it's certainly added to the fun. They had something this strong available this quickly, because this is certainly a game with plenty of depth, and that's a good thing. So let's go ahead and get this started. Launch Pro Wrestling is, I kept everything the same in as far as real world went, except I launched a pair of developmental companies for AEW, for All Elite Wrestling. One is my promotion that I'm running, Launch Pro Wrestling. That's a men's promotion. I have a separate women's promotion called Sharp. And it's a one that's going to be AI-controlled. In this game, this series, in 2020, for the first time ever, you can play as a child company with an AI parent company. And so that's been fun so far. A lot to learn. And there'll be an interesting contrast between how my company does. I mean, it's really owned by AEW in the game, but Launch is the company that I'm running, compared with how their computer's doing it, because I've signed a bunch of people and then also had wrestlers signed by AEW and sent down for training or for developmental, call it what you will. And that's me. So in the last show, had Hero and Velasquez beating Kurt Hawkins and Zack Ryder in the top match on the show. And if you look for the show rating of 60, it's actually the lowest rate of the 4 that I've had to date, but that's okay. The attendance has been abysmal, but a very, very positive sign. We went from having almost nobody watching, fewer than 3,450 people in the first week, the second week, the third week. But then this past show, because we jumped from a 0 to a 1 out of 100 as far as popularity went, that managed to give us a boost. I mean, we went from sub 3,400 to, between these thrown together. Maybe some of the other territories aren't as strong, but well, here's one in North America. Okay, it's total. That's total right there. Point being, that's 58,000 plus viewers, which compared with the last show, where, I mean, that just wasn't the case. So it's moving in the right direction. Starting at 0 is tough, and I don't know that I would recommend it, but that's what I've done, just because that's just the way I started, and sticking with it that way. See how long it takes me to climb up. An unusual circumstance with this being a child company, and let me go through the rest of this real quick though. I had an incident with, or an incident, but poor planning or poor anticipation by me with some of my wrestlers that I thought were clear to work for me on the last show. Ended up having a booking with Impact Wrestling. So I didn't have TJP in there and had to sub him out in the semifinal. So I tried to turn a negative into a positive, plugged in Christian Casanova. And while Goddard's got the pin over Yehai to set up this main event for this upcoming show, that's going to be tag title defense, FTR defending against Jesse Goddard and Kenny Doan. Now, next out of this. I've been trying to keep the wrestlers that were sent down to me for developmental on these cards, even the pre-show, just give them the reps, because ultimately that's what they're going to need to have in real life, when and if AEW does something similar to this, if that happens. Heath Slater, that's injuries though. That was the main story coming out of the last show. Heath Slater has a meniscus tear, out for a year. And he was one of my top guys. I know Heath Slater sounds like the comedy character from WWE, the lower card guy, but I mean, he's got the skills. If this game's any indication, I tend to believe it. But that doesn't do me any good right now because he got hurt, losing to Connor. Not Connor's fault, just knee injury. So now, I've had just a really good success with Connor being managed by Alicia Fox. She was sent down as a developmental talent, and while I'm a men's promotion, she's coming in as a manager. So it's like it's all men in my rosters. I've got like Gail Kim as well, who is one of my best road agents. Now the downside is I can't just plug in Gail Kim if I need somebody to wrestle in a pinch, but she's worth it. She's been very good. And plus, some of my other guys I'm not going to just plug in anyway. So, but essentially, you can see how easy it is if you're playing the game to look back and, now granted, I'll put my wall of text here. I keep track of a lot of this stuff myself because there are details that get left out. Like in a tag match, well, who got pinned? So here, Jesse Goddard's pinned Freddie Ahai, 14:48 at the time of the fall with a stunner. And at a glance, I can find that, which isn't as important for the actual live stream broadcast. When I'm trying to put together a card, I want things to make sense as much as possible. So that's been my approach. I think the first course of action is going to be to target a couple of hires. Zenshi has been a wrestler I've been interested in for a bit. Let's see if I can find where Shinzi is on there. Zenshi. Yeah, last check, $120 a show with a 24 popularity, and that works for me. And then Ziggy Dice. I don't know why I picked Ziggy out, but for whatever reason I did. I guess I'll find out here in a minute. But I've not offered either of them a contract yet. Plus, I need to find somebody for TJP, because along with Heath Slater being injured, also had ACH suffer a partial bicep tear. So luckily not a full one. In this game, it's been weird. This particular playthrough, an inordinate amount of bicep injuries. But luckily, I'll have ACH out by the time the TV number 7 rolls around, so 2 weeks from my next TV. And there's been a slow building feud between ACH and TJ Perkins, so and a lot of this is just penciled in here as far as where I might put in some creative elements. This is 102 to 18 split. That's 102 minutes of wrestling and 18 minutes of angles, interviews, etc. Now, I know it sounds strange to have a Connor versus Big Cass #1 contender match, but I mean, Connor's been somebody I've been building up. Big Cass as well, so it actually will have some meaning behind it. I took the liberty of right now, because this is tough to find at a glance. Like granted, this is also a wall of text. I'm looking for a name. I'll try to Control F, see if that helps you any. But I tried to get it where it was ranked by their actual popularity. Although popularity only goes so far in this game. There's some wrestlers in here that I'll target at some point. I might try Petey Williams. That's a heck of a deal. I mean, Fabian Eichner, I feel a little weird about that because Eichner in this game is with NXT. And he's under a written deal, but it's not an exclusive written deal. And then Marcel Bartel as well. But give me a few weeks, maybe I'll get over it and bring him in as a one-off to put over my guys. Have them go against FTR. And the plan for tonight is for FTR to retain the Tag Team Championship. One other bit of business as far as the injuries go. It was 3 of them in total. Lio Rush on the last show was described as brain fog, which sounds like carny for a concussion, but they didn't call it that. But the prognosis is that he would be available in 6 days, which should put him back in place to be able to defend his Sprint Championship. The Sprint Championship is my only secondary title. I've got a men's world title, and I got men's tag team titles. The women wrestlers have their own promotion where they can learn to work every spot on the card. And I think that in real life is something they should actually consider doing. But it works for my purposes here. But as far as people I've brought in, or have been sent down to me, Alicia Fox has already called back up. Donovan Danhausen, he's only got a couple of weeks left. He got called up, I think, a week before Alicia. And they're very good in this game. It's like the anti-WWE, where horror stories about Ohio Valley wrestling and guys getting called up or having abrupt changes to their look or whatever without a chance to even like build up a hair versus hair step. Just get the call from Stamford, Connecticut saying, we want to see what this guy looks like with a shaved head. And there's no 3-week build for a hair versus hair match. You just got to give it to him. So this is a lot more reasonable, as you might expect from a company that's not run by Vince McMahon. So PB Smooth is injured, so I won't use him. Briggs I've got lined up there. If I can get the elusive Ziggy Dice. Who else was I looking at? I was talking Petey Williams. I think he's the one I'd really like to get. Bring him in, even as I could do it as a one-off, but sometimes I wonder if that's something I even need to do, because I can have a ongoing deal where it's like a pay-per appearance, but there's no downside guarantee you have to give out. That just means more wrestlers to add into the potential mix. And as a developmental territory, got a bit of latitude. So, and if for some reason I can't find somebody to go in there with TJ Perkins, I've got some guys on the roster that can make do. But the plan is to have Connor beat Big Cass, and Connor challenge for the world title against Chris Hero on the next show. Chris Hero wins. Alicia Fox wraps up, goes up to the main roster at AEW, and then that's for them to figure out. It's unfortunate that it's one of my hires, Connor. It doesn't seem like they're going to call up anybody that I hired specifically for my company. Now, that might change. And this game has shown me not to just assume things, because there's an extra depth to it that I think is both subtle and only avails itself to you after you've been in the game a bit. Just little things, like when you have somebody that's locked in to come in and work the next week and then they back out, they have a change of heart, like what happened with Rob Van Dam with me when I had him booked to come in. So there is some risk in having Kenny Doan in my main event, because he's only a 21 on the popularity. Goddard's is a 40. Luckily though, FTR, Wheeler and Harwood, I still got used to saying their new names. The former Dash Wilder is now Cash Wheeler. The former Scott Dawson is now Dax Harwood. Lio Rush I mentioned, hopefully he'll be over his brain fog. Pretty big match though. I mean, I tried to think about, okay, so you have a tag team title main event. Got that in the top spot, but with Kenny Doan not a super highly rated as far as the popularity goes, there is some risk to it. But I normally wouldn't put the sprint title match this high, but because Cain Velasquez is challenging, but that's set up to go to a 10-minute draw. So I need somebody for Perkins. Let me see if I can get Zenshi under contract. Rock and Roll Express, I'm waiting to hear back from. I should hear, because I only asked them like I think a day or two before the last show, so there wasn't sufficient time to bring them in, which was too bad because I mentioned with Impact Wrestling having some of my guys, and they didn't bother to post that on the schedule until the day of, which I didn't look at. So I checked the previous day, the first of the month. They're not listed, we're good. And we were not good, but we got through it. And again, we drew 24 people. Now it's funny to have that few in attendance and then high viewership. Almost sounds like something, a sign of the times in some ways. We brought in Laredo Kid as a one-off, and it was weird with him because he's under a contract or under some sort of deal with Impact, and he missed the show I'd originally planned to have him work on, the show before last. And the last show, Impact was working again. He still had their deal with him, but he was available. Now, I wasn't complaining, but I didn't quite understand it. But he worked his match, put over Lio Rush despite the brain fog. Very disturbing description of what Lio Rush had ailing him. Now, one other thing. If for whatever reason Lio Rush is not able to defend the title on the show, it gets vacated. And I love having a championship with a long lineage and there's not any breaks in it. But the sprint title is different. It's a hybrid of a 10-minute, like you see in CMLL, Lucha Libre, a 10-minute lightning match, one fall, 10 minutes. And that's what this is. Melded with the Smoky Mountain Wrestling Beat the Champ TV title, which was a title defended weekly on television, as it would sound like. And the difference, though, with that capped out at 5. I look at how, like, Jeopardy, the game show, they used to have it was like a contestant could go on there for 5 shows, and they had to retire, from the show. Now it's unlimited, which I think was a very smart move, because then you get those long winning streaks that can really pop the territory. Thus far, Rush has been my only champ. I had him win every time, but this one, Velasquez is one of my top guys. He's at a 50. I think I cap out at 55 as far as how much I can have my wrestlers go to popularity-wise at this point, which is fine. It's still, again, I've got a 1 popularity, like Joey Eastman. It's my company. But we're getting there. And then I got somebody for Halloween Wicked I could plug in someone from here. Poor Mike Seidel's turning like my designated pre-show jobber guy. Not because he's untalented, he's actually quite talented. It's just his popularity's been very low. Alright, so there was one other thing I should actually start with, the injuries. And injuries are not what you would think they'd be. Funny, I started to say that. Now I'm not sure if that's correct. You see my 1s. We're tracking over time. It's 0 to 1. So, we're as popular in Wales as we are in the southeast United States. India and Oceania, not so much. It was the individual wrestler. You've pulled it up that way. Skills. Okay. So, for example, ACH, the ruptured bicep tendon. My weekly television's on a Tuesday, so I've got 6 days to go to roll around for the next 2 weeks. Time-wise, roll through another 2 weeks. I'll be back in time. Because it's just Wednesday of week 1 now, so he should be back in time for the week 4 television. But there was a way to, like, have them do surgery. I don't remember ever seeing this in the game before. And I ran across it at one point. I guess it slipped my mind after that. So I'm going to find where that is. Medical. Yeah, look at this. Perform surgery. If I had known that, I would have given PB Smooth the... Let's go with the very low risk first. I don't want to damage Heath Slater. I was up for a year and 2 months, though. And I was really hoping I could have him rematch in about 4 or 5 months with Chris Hero. It was a great match in the inaugural match to determine the first launch world champion. Are you sure if you want to? Let's see. Yeah. Are you sure you wish to go ahead and have this surgery performed? If successful, the duration of the injury will be reduced, and the damage it caused can be reduced too. However, if complications arise based on the risk level, then the worker will face a longer recovery time and may suffer additional damage. Well, I think the risk reward is definitely my favorite here. Well, that was successful. Now, how long that ends up being remains to be seen. But this is another example of an improvement in TEW 2020 over the 2016 version of the game, with this kind of level of detail and nuance, and it feels more like individuals that react to things in different ways, just like real human beings do, compared with previous versions of this game where it felt like a bit more, didn't feel like as organic, I guess, where it seemed like it was not predictable. It wasn't as nuanced, I guess is the best way I can put it. So, oh, there we go. Okay, so he went for a year and 2 months out to 8 months. Plus, I don't have to worry about paying him, though, at the moment. There's no downside guarantee to any of these handshake deals. And I'm only allowed to offer handshake deals. So let's see, PB Smooth. I don't know if I want to chance it. I probably will, but this is a little different because this is AEW signing PB Smooth and then sending him down to me, and then him getting injured almost right away. It's low risk. I think it's worth a chance. All right, complete success. See the Lio Rush with the brain fog, at least working through it, which can't improve that. This went from 2 months to 15 days, so. Hey, I'm cool, Phil. How's it going? I've just been performing surgery on my injured wrestlers here. And that was something I just ran across by chance. I think it was after I finished the feed last night. So, at this point, plan for tonight. I don't think I'm going to try and hire Alex Shelley. I don't think I'm going to try and hire Mark Haskins on this show. I may target, let's see here. As you can see, I took some notes. Petey Williams, $600 for appearance for a 41 popularity. And I bet TJ Perkins against Petey Williams would be a good match. Let's see if I can get Petey Williams to agree. So Petey Williams wants to negotiate. He's not a brawler. He's not a comedy wrestler, which is important because I don't have that many mandates from AEW, but I'm not allowed to hire anyone that's a brawler or anyone that's a comedy wrestler. Even though they've sent down brawlers to me to have develop, which is strange, but part of it. So look at that, 41 and $600. That, I mean, to me, that's a great deal. I know Impact's paying them less, but that's okay. I'm playing as a child company of AEW. This is using the Killing the Business mod from Gary Wooder. And I kept everything else the same because it's very balanced. But I created 2 child companies, or developmental companies, for the parent company, AEW. One, the computer is controlling. It's an all-women's company as far as the wrestlers. So if Gary's in the game as an announcer, they hired him to do the announcing there. But that's like, for idea being to give the developmental women a chance to work all levels of the card, you know, so they're comfortable working a main event or a semi-main. They've got experience with it. I think that's the kind of thing that would be very helpful before they have to go and try and do that, you know, on the much larger stage. Whereas for me, this company that I created that's actually owned in the game by AEW. Oh, I can't sign. I'll get you to Teddy Hart in a minute. But yeah, there's some guys I can't sign. There's a reason on that. But it's interesting because this is the first time in this series you could ever play as a child company with an AI-controlled parent company. And so my company is Launch. A lot of these people are in a contract that, it's funny enough, so I've hired a bunch of guys. We're still listed as insignificant. I mean, we started with a 0 as far as popularity, and we're to Wednesday of the second month in the game, so we're getting things started up. But so Launch is the company that I've got, but it's owned by AEW. They've got Dave Prazak assigned as my CEO. And it's kind of funny because we'd be negotiating with somebody. I was trying to bring in Jeff Cobb, and then Prazak stepped in and said, no, you can't go above this level. And so I couldn't sign Cobb. He was going to be too expensive. So there's little details like that where there's more variance in the reaction from a given wrestler compared with earlier versions of the series. Now, let's go here and I'll show you. Teddy Hart in prison. It's more like a jail, but the way it's listed here is incarcerated and trying to negotiate. Teddy Hart is currently in jail and therefore not available for negotiations. Let me He's talented, though. He's got popularity, and I mean, he'd be good to bring in if he can. Now, the risk, though, is that you bring in people that have perhaps some negativity around them, or some controversy. You risk throwing off the whole vibe in the locker room. But then you can just bring in somebody for one night only. So if they're a troublemaker or whatever, they're out the door that night. And hopefully, if you booked it right, they're putting over one of your top guys, and you look that much stronger. P.D. Williams. Scott DeBoer approves. Some handshake. In the old days, you had to have a limit on how long the contract was going to last. But this year, it's a very little thing, but it's been very effective. Just make it ongoing. And it's just, to me, it's a lot more realistic as far as the way business works in general. If you're hiring people for, one-off events, you're not going to give a downside guarantee. Top guys, I can show you right now as far as the popularity. Chris Hero is my champion. He's been my first and only champ thus far. I'm still early into it. Brian Brody King, and he got injured, so. But I got the Revival, FTR, and they've been great. They're my tag champs. There's an option for this year to have a tournament that you can set up, but I didn't trust it or understand it well enough to know if I could do a tournament over multiple shows. So I just had the de facto semifinals on the first show, and in the second one I had FTR win the tag team championship. They're actually going to be main eventing tonight. Now, Goddard's and Doan are not top guys for me. Goddard's is like a 40, but Doan only at 21 in popularity, so there will be a hit taken with that in all likelihood. But I've been building them as a team, so there's a logical reason for them to challenge. But they're a team FTR can beat decisively and then move on. But Chris Hero, the last show, 18 with Cain Velasquez, another one of my top guys, being Hawkins and Ryder. And that's where I had the bad surprise with guys I thought I would have available that ended up working Impact. Impact didn't show up on the schedule until the day of, and I didn't check it. Because I thought the first of the month, if it's going to be there, it'll show up now. But that was not the case. So I turned a negative into a positive as best I could. Popped in Christian Casanova. He's one of my up-and-coming kind of guys. Now I had Goddard's get the win. But now we're going to see how Casanova does go against like Gregory Helms. And there's a reason for them to... I always try to have like a purpose for every match that I book, at least for the main show. And going back to the third week of television, now granted it was a pre-show, but they're on opposite sides there. There was more Penny Melendez, so they weren't involved in the actual, the fall itself. Is the music too loud? It's almost like a running gag for me at this point. This music is as low as I can get it, I think, without drowning me out. Yeah, it's intense. It's the Who Wants to Be a Millionaire music. It's because the thing is, this game doesn't have any music underneath it or anything, so it's just, I'm here, doing a running monologue from what's in my head. It's a little bit of music on the, it adds to the drama too, in its own way. All right, so I can make it a one-off and bring him in, beat him, and that's it. But I think it makes sense to lock him in because there's no downside guarantee, and because nothing's guaranteed as far as the guys that I've signed, I can have a very bloated roster. I've disabled it where they'll complain if you're not on a show or not on one of your shows that you booked. But I've found that through the years to be a problematic rule to have. I'm glad you can toggle out of it. Like I put in like a spot show somewhere, not for now, but like if we're in like a larger promotion or in like a new market, like a 500-seat building. I don't want my top stars complain they got left off the show when it would make any sense to use them there at all. Thus, that approach. So, that, and then presuming Lio Rush is healthy enough to defend. And the way that title is, if he's not healthy, if he's not able to defend, it gets vacated. Because in that way, it's similar to the Smoky Mountain Beat the Champ TV title. But then worked as a CMLL style lightning match, 1 fall, 10-minute time limit. So, P.D. Williams, see if we'll give him another pause with P.D. Williams. And because I'm based in the Southeast United States, anyone in here that I sign, I don't have to worry about paying transport fees. The travel, they handle it. Someone's like Southwest, I got to fly him in. mean, the same is also true for international, just that much more expensive. Now, on the flip side of that, this is all money that AEW is spending. So at the beginning of the month, I went from like 186,000 in the red to 0. Okay, this is always an ongoing thing. They want a higher cut of the merch. But I'll show you what happens if I try to go above 10%. That's another rule AEW has for me. Not allowed. The block. So I have to go down with that. No, not up. Now he wants a little bit more money. Let's see if it'll go like for 615. All right, good. That's still a bargain. Now at this point, it's Wednesday. My next show, and every week I have a Tuesday night event that I treat as if it is a television show, it more or less is. But that should give me a chance to get Petey Williams in here to work the show. The way to grow in other markets is just over time. Like if you start off, and normally you don't start at 0 like I did with this, but yeah, I'm playing as a developmental, one of 2. Because there's my company launch, and I'm almost as curious about this as I am how mine is going to play out. The other one I created called Sharp. So you got launch, the men's developmental, and then Sharp, the women's. And again, I said this before, but the idea that how can you expect a woman that you bring up from developmental who hasn't had a chance to work much at all on the top of the card to be comfortable with doing that someday when they get ready to without that experience? It doesn't make sense to me. So the idea is that it's 2 companies that are both run by AEW, and that's just the way I'm seeing how this works out. Now, unlike me, well, it took a little longer to get things set up because they had like a week or 2 before they hired Allison Danger. And so Gary Woodard, the guy who designed this mod, he put himself in as a broadcaster. Of course, I did the same for myself, but I really am a sports broadcaster. But whatever the case, they hired him to do that. So it's not like there can't be any men that work there, just not wrestling. And ditto for me. Alicia Fox, breakout star for me as a manager, of all things. With Connor from the Ascension. I thought, okay, with Connor, let's get him as far away from that Ascension gimmick as possible. I thought, okay, there's a lot of strange variables in here, but maybe it'll work. And it did. Of course, right away, AEW went to call up Alicia Fox. That also is the problem, though, for me. Come on. That Alicia Fox is getting called up, but Connor, who she's clicked with as far as on-air chemistry or whatever, it's working. But the problem is, Connor's somebody that I signed. He's also 40. But it would make sense, you would think, for AEW to call up both the manager and the person that she's managing down here. But by the same token, they obviously don't have that in mind because they've said anything about bringing up Connor. But I don't know if they're going to bring up anybody that I signed. I don't know how that's going to work. And because this is a brand new way to play the game as a person playing as a child's company with an AI parent, and through the child's company for the AI as well, as a contrast for what I'm doing. They lost a lot less money last month than I did, but I also signed a bunch of people. I think you think Connor, whatever, but he's going to be a short run, but he's going to beat Big Cass tonight, which is a big deal because I haven't had Cass drop a fall yet, and it's a #1 contender match. That's the way I'm setting it up. So I'll put a double question mark Petey Williams here for TJ Perkins. Rock and Roll Express have offered them contracts. I had them as a one-off, and that was the week before the last one, where I also had problems with my wrestlers that I didn't think would be working Impact, having to work Impact. And so I was kind of pressed into forcing guys that aren't normally road agents into helping me out. And the Rock and Roll Express were great at it. So my thought is bring them in, just very occasional work. And then I've got 2, especially Ricky Morton, but I think Robert Gibson is pretty good at it too, as I recall. Anyway, so that's the thought behind all of that. So Petey Williams, Rock and Roll Express that I'm hoping to get. So Zenshi and Ziggy Dice. It's just a coincidence with the Z names, because Zenshi I've been wanting to bring in for a bit. In part because $120. He's Southeast based, which means I have to pay travel at least at this level. 24 popularity, but for that prize. I mean, now, unless that's gone up. That's Connor, so that's not. I'm way off. There are a lot of things that have moved around to one degree or another from 2016. But in some cases, I've learned that it's more of like just being reworded to make a little more sense. It used to be roster overview. Now it says contracts. Get a lot more information here. But it's a little different now. It used to be, main event, upper mid card or lower card. But now it's like major star, and then down from there. But because I'm such a low popularity promotion, it's like everybody's a star. And they just sent down Eastman as a manager. Unfortunately for me, Eastman is not nearly as good on the microphone as Alicia Fox. But he's better at it as far as speaking to an English-speaking audience than Bestia 666. Personal info. Well, hang on now. That says he speaks fluent English. I thought for sure it said maybe he brushed up on the language a bit. Well, I'm not going to change from having where'd he go? Voice down there, but Joey, the manager, for now I'm at least keeping them together to see if they have anything. Thus far, it was just kind of like no positive or no negative the last time. So, all right. ACH out. I haven't cut a promo during the show. So you can still at least do a promo. I was afraid though when I saw partially torn bicep, he'd be gone for like a year. But only like 3 weeks. So I was fortunate. So P. Williams. All right, let me go to the list here. Z. Oh, come on. Zenshin. Because I'm based in the Southeast, that's the only popularity I care about right now. At some point, maybe I'll get to like an NXT type level and have a developmental touring brand, but I don't anticipate that anytime soon. $120 a show, I mean, that's a steal. And he's 30, so he's on the younger side. Now, some of his technical, he's not going to have a Dean Malenko masterclass with you, but he doesn't need to. And if nothing else, if it turns out he's not as good as I think he is, it's $120 a show, and I have no obligation to have to pay any sort of downside guarantee or ever even book him again if I don't want to. The only danger if you have somebody with an ongoing contract and they've got a personality that clashes with the locker room, they kind of have to be a little proactive. Well, my inclination usually is to, if I'm going to book somebody that's like a bad influence, have them for one show and one only, and then get them on out of there. Right now, the only company that's smaller than me is a Sharp, the women's company. Let's see. I know there's a page somewhere where I can see this much more easily. I mean, everybody, because there's tiny, which is better than insignificant. But right now, for me, as Launch Pro Wrestling, I'm already down nearly 40 grand. And we're only 3 days into the month. We see last month, and there's reset to 0. So, as I noted before, if only real life were like that. Hit the reset button at the end of the month. All debts forgiven. Of course, as I noted, there are restrictions that AEW has for me as far as how much I spend or what kind of contracts I offer, etc. I mean, that's such a great price. And he's local for in the region at least. So let's see. Making sure I didn't offer him a contract before and forget about it. Perfect. So if that works, we'll have a Zenshi come in, have Bestia 666 put him over, and then we'll see from there. Bestia had a win in the last show. And we'll have again with the opener. At least that's how I have it tentatively planned. It's always possible that last match I've got can get bumped to the pre-show if things run long at the top, but I don't think they will. Okay, yeah, we're gonna get the Zenshi offer in. I get paranoid sometimes and start, my brain goes in 1,000 different directions. And, oh, come on. Is that Ziggy? Where's the dice? Oh, Zicky. Helps me get his name right, huh? Sorry, Zicky. I mean, I know who he is. It's the NWA here. Now, the red, when you see that for your popularity, that's not a good sign. But my Southwest, well, you know, I got to fly him in. And you know what? I don't think that's worth it to do that for a pre-show match. I've got guys under contract that aren't working the show. I just have them go up against like Eris or something like that. But I don't think I'll do that. Yeah, I do real commentary. Now, I've never called a pro wrestling match, but I've been broadcasting for close to 25 years now. Mostly American football. That's my go-to. But everything from baseball to basketball to a lot of different things. I do website development as well, so I mean, it's tough times right now as far as broadcasting. I mean, there's hardly any sports to call. That's where pro wrestling has, you know, been able to at least fill that hole to some degree. All right, so we're just going to skip Zicky Dice. So I don't think it's been worth the effort to bring him in and have Aries penciled in. So Zenshi we're waiting to hear back from. Petey Williams we're waiting to hear back from. Rock and Roll Express we're waiting to hear back from. But once they are okay with the deal that you offer, almost always, thus far at least in my experience, they'll decide in a few days to sign. And that's why I do everything right as soon as I can after the last show, usually the next day with my Tuesday night weekly shows. Get it on Wednesday, and usually by that following Monday, you got everybody lined up. Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. I enjoy doing it. I mean, to me, this is something that I'm passionate about. I went to the University of Evansville in southwest Indiana, and they had a college radio station. And I ended up going to that school in large part because of the station. And because Evansville's not that big, it's like 2,600 students. And I knew that would mean early opportunities for me to get on air and do this sort of thing. And so right away I was able to do it. You know, I waited until toward the end of my first semester, freshman year, because I was very lucky. Very generous scholarships helped me out a lot. I was working 2 jobs as well, but I mean, those scholarships made a difference. But those scholarships had the stipulation I had to keep my GPA at a certain level, and I was not going to screw that up. There too much money was on the line, so I made it work. Oh, Indiana, what part? Double check with Josh Briggs and Aries, or not Aries, not like Austin Aries, Eris. So let's see, we go Hallowicked. It's only an 18 or 19 in popularity, but in a pinch, I think the show before last, I had to put him in a sprint title match. So the way that championship works is a floating as far as its status. So lower tiered wrestlers can challenge for it. And so all sorts of opportunities for it, especially because it's a 10-minute time limit. A lot of different ways you can play it. It's not too long of a match. Newcastle, huh? Yeah, Indiana, I called a women's basketball game up in Valpo one time in the northern part of the state. I've been to Fort Wayne a couple of times. Buddy Gary's from there. Also went to a wedding there. That was a plane ticket I bought the day before 9/11. September 10th, 2001. The late Joe Pacheco, one of my fraternity brothers, may he rest in peace. And he and his, soon-to-be wife got married. And Joe was my first roommate out of college. And so I actually flew into Indy. My buddy, another fraternity brother, Justin, picked me up, went to Terre Haute to stay at his place for the night. Next day went to the wedding, got back, all that. Not that you might, history of me in Indiana, but, and of course, Indianapolis, I've been there. All right. So get to the point of advancing days here in just a second. I want to make sure one more time that I have it figured out. So look at how we can see. That's what I was talking about, where we had to fill in late. And Lio Rush and Halo Wicked had a 64, which is very good. Like my highest rated match from anybody to date is a 71. But to me, that's more how Lio Rush helped carry him versus. Now, granted, it's against No Way Jose and Suge D, Pineapple Pete. So I don't want to be too harsh on the guy. Also had a girlfriend that went to Purdue, so I got to know West Lafayette, Indiana pretty well. Got to see Drew Brees play when he's a quarterback there. That was 20 years ago. That just blows my mind. That was like the late part. We actually had a couple of runs with a girl I dated that was there. Back to 97. It was funny because a lot of the state, and I'm not sure how it is now, but a lot of the state at the time, they didn't do anything with like daylight saving time. There were people who came to Evansville, they were like freshmen with me, that had never had to roll the clock back or have it move forward because that's not something the rest of the state had to do. But that Southwest slice there, including Evansville, does and did and still does. Anyway, it's gonna sidetrack on that. Let's see. I got Facade lined up there. I've got him teaming with Max Stardom. They're both aerial style wrestlers. They'll work a fine pre-show there. Make sure my developmental's taken care of. She's managing Connor. He's injured. Briggs I've got up there. Danhausen out on the show. And Eastman I got on the show. Because he's managing Bestia 666. That's what I thought. The names start to run together, and I'm looking from one list to the other. So, Petey Williams. I mean, it's a pre-show match, but it's not all that important. Let's see. Maybe we get one of these guys. Like a one-off or something. Although, I'm more inclined with the one-offs used as like the higher salary guys. So I already got Zenshi with an offer. Oh, yes, it's a cool picture of a minute, the Trip Cassidy photo. I saw your thing just as I jumped here. Okay, more middleweight. You guys with Ring of Honor. Okay, that's not what I wanted. It's the pre-show, so their ranking isn't all that important. So Mike Seidel hasn't had a whole lot on the winning side, but had a match here, so that's... Let's see, I'll check. Calvin Tankman? Tankman? He might be. No. Doesn't everybody. Alright, I will try something real quick here to see if I can get a... Let's get somebody who's decent on aerial, just because... I wish I could make it default every time to wrestler, can work in USA, male, because it's a male-only company as far as wrestlers go, with my developmental, opposite the all-women's company, on the other side of the developmental. Let's see, can work in USA, status active wrestler. If I could start with that every time, it would be a lot easier. It's not that big of a hassle to set it up again. Did that narrow things down much? Let's go to selling. Oh, you know what? You're right. Thank you. Set to higher. At some point, I'll get the full list memorized, and I need to check and uncheck. I had Quest work the show before. But I think I'm going to hold off on him for now, because I do want to bring him back at some point, but not just use it to put somebody over on the pre-show. I mean, I could try to bring in Bandito, but I think the CMLL runs the same night we do normally. Plus, he's kind of busy. Brandon Tate. 14 popularity, but it's the pre-show, so I don't really care. $40 a show. Now we're talking. Like the Barrington Hughes and Mike Seidel on my cheapest per appearance list. Or I think it'll tell me no with Orange Cassidy. See, unwilling or unable to negotiate. But that's in part because he's with AEW, which is my parent company. And I'm not able to hire people that are there. Now, keep in mind, when I started this game, that at that point, that froze the mod at that point for how it was at the time. Which is how something like Drew Gulak on my roster, who it seems has signed a deal to return to WWE in real life, but he happened to fall in that little window when I started the game, so he's in there. I would love to have Orange Cassidy work at the show, but I'm not sure how that would work. I think that would be like they would have to initiate that. But I don't know because this is all brand new, which is a positive. Okay, I probably should wait and have them come in together versus just bringing one of the twins. I'm more worried with money. Brian Johnson. He's tri-state. Based. Because I'm based in the southeast, it makes sense that people can do that, so they'll take away that travel cost. Like that, cleared the list. Dakota, Brazil. You know, Flamita would be nice. Although if I'm bringing a Flamita, it's going to be like in a high-profile spot. I mean, this little money, it's not, I mean, why would I say one and only for this? Because I'm not going to pay anything else to keep them around. Yeah, I don't know the whole NXT UK thing. If in this game, plans changed. All right, make the offer. Easy enough. All right. So now, I'll put the double question marks on either side to make sure I know that they're not officially signed yet. So Petey Williams Zenshi, Rock and Roll Express, and Coda Brazil. So we'll see how this is how we're looking now. We'll see how things play out. One quick look at this screen just to be sure. Here's the Heath Slater injury I was talking about. Over a year, although it got cut down to like 8 months when I had him have surgery and it was successful. Which I've never seen in this game before as an option, but all right. Yeah, I've looked through all this, I believe. Yeah. Hey, Chris Hero, my champ. Current Launch World Champion. Launch World Championship champion, as it says. Whoa. It was like 4th of July. American Independence Day. I've noticed the computer likes to book a lot of three-way matches. That's not my thing as much. If there's a good reason for it, okay. But I don't care for that very much. Especially when it's first fall wins. I mean, to me, it's just garbage. And companies I love do that. I love AEW. I love New Japan, but they do it that way. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure the match itself will be great. Moxley and Darby Allin and Pac. Or Pac. I'm still waiting to hear an explanation on that. Because to say that people were mispronouncing it for years is nonsense. I mean, look, there's worse things to get upset about, but I just didn't think of that. I was trying to say it like Justin Roberts, like Piak. Just kind of in between. Lucha Brothers versus SU in a tables match. Look at those getting some high marks. And you know what? It wouldn't surprise me whenever the Lucha Bros can get back and get reestablished and everything. Have them against Page and Omega at some point. How about Wardlow losing to Trent Seven of all people on the pre-show? Wow. But they're not quite like real life, unfortunately, as far as the viewership goes. Although their TV numbers are great, nobody's drawn this anymore, with few exceptions. Speaking of which, I am very curious about when Adam Cole's contract is going to be up. And not like in this game, but I'm talking like in real life. Presuming he hasn't like secretly signed another one. Because the closer they get to that contract expiration time, it'll be interesting to see what happens, if nothing else. The Briscoes are under just it's not an exclusive deal. So I'll probably bring them in at some point. It's a long way to get to this point. A handshake, so I say that's doable. All right. Mia Yim getting called up. Uh-oh. Dislocated ankles aren't any good. That's what happened to what's his name? Brody King. Dislocated ankle. He's trying to work through it, but until that's healthy, I'm not booking him. Especially not at this rate. I mean, that's the highest that I've got for anybody. Now, granted, he's at 55 as far as popularity. It'll be worth it. Plus, the parent company's paying the bill, so I can't, get too caught up in it. But by the same token, I want to run this like I really would run a company. I just try to, I don't know. Yeah, Marty Scurll not signing with AEW was a surprise, but I think, if I'm not mistaken, in the last Being the Elite, I haven't seen it yet, but I heard or read whatever the highlights, and apparently he made an appearance near the end. It's funny with Marty Scurll. I always think with him, the first time I remember, I think the first time I saw him wrestle live was the weekend of WrestleMania 32 in Dallas with the Evolve/WWN at Eddie Dean's Ranch, this rather small building, all things considered, although it was, we weren't cramped in there, but there's so much talent there that weekend. But I mentioned Marty Scurll because I remember was waiting in line for the men's room, and like a true villain, Marty Scurll just cuts line, just jets by everybody. Like, what's Marty doing here? Like for a half second, it's like, uh-oh, is there like an angle, some sort of brawl heading into the bathroom? Do I need to take cover? Anyway, that's my Marty Scurll story. But dude is super talented, and sky's the limit for him. Yeah, I want to see Adam Cole go to AEW, and I think he knows what's going to happen if he signs a new contract. He saw how little value there is, and at least a boilerplate WWE contract. Think about like with the Revival. People online were giving them all sorts of grief because they weren't taking the $750,000 a year. But that's not what it was. Because when you got a company option to cut somebody at any time, I mean, that's no real contract at all. It's very one-sided. Anyway, Adam Cole coming in would be great. I would love to see Roddy. Obviously all those guys. Bobby Fish, I don't know if he'd be wanting to at this point, but of course Kyle O'Reilly. I can see Kyle O'Reilly wanting to work in AEW/New Japan, or maybe not. I don't know what he wants, but I would love to see Adam Cole show up in AEW. Makes all the sense in the world. It's going to end up better with him in AEW than Adam Cole getting called to the main roster, because the main roster is where beloved NXT acts go to die, and the latest to be sacrificed to be Matt Riddle. Just watch. They only signed him because the pressure was on, and they knew somebody else was going to want him. New Japan was talking with him, so he's been down in developmental, even though he's better than half the people on the main roster today. But there's, working WWE style. That's a whole different thing. That's a half-hour rant I'm not going to get into. But point being, I agree, Adam Cole and AEW would be wonderful, and I think there's all sorts of potential with that. All right. Zip on ahead to Friday. And again, my show's not until Tuesday next week, so these ongoing negotiations, here we go. This is Paul Heyman internet support. All right, so here we go. Had the 5 question marks as far as the wrestlers waiting to hear back from Petey Williams, Zenshi, Rock and Roll Express, Kota Brazil. So we got 3 of the 5, just waiting on Petey and Kota. Another thing I like for 2020 that's an improvement over 2016 and before in this series, complete all worker signings. You have to go through every time and do all that. So waiting on Petey, waiting on Kota. And I've got enough guys available that if they decide not to sign with me, it'll be just fine. Oh. Los Ingobernables AAA. All right. Even like on a daily basis in this game, part of what takes a while to get through is, I mean, you can advance faster than that if you want to, but to play with the level of detail that I like. Okay, so we got Kota Brazil. Just waiting to hear from Petey. So we're set with everybody then. But I like that I don't have to go into the roster after I sign somebody as like a one-off, or even if I sign them just to begin with, and assign them what their push should be, based on usually on the suggestion by the computer. So a lot of unnecessary filler work that they've gotten rid of, so that's a major plus in my book with this game. So, Coda Brazil and Hollow Wicked, Briggs and Eris, at the Rock and Roll Express. I could write their names out, but I know Ricky and Roberts. And then Zenshi. I could have a change of heart and have Bestia put over Zenshi, but I don't think so. Or be the winner over Zenshi, but perhaps I'll have a change of heart, but probably not. So waiting on Williams, we'll look through here. Because at least, I imagine this part's similar to how it was in the past. If there's somebody under an exclusive contract that their deal's about to come up, you find out basically one time. It'll show you in one day in here, and sometimes they'll bury the lead. You have to look through there to make sure. And there are different ways that they've had it written where it's like, they let you know basically that they're talking with their parent company and they're probably close to re-signing, but they'll listen to what you have to say. We're the Midday Express. One thing this game has had, the AI has really enjoyed breaking up factions and tag teams and creating new ones with strange names. Yeah, some of these computer-made names are going to be a little confusing for me. I know who those guys are. I'd love to have Soberano Jr., among others from that company. What bring Caveman? Cavernario? A few months out with a hamstring. I pulled a hamstring playing tennis in college. I'm not the most athletic person in the world, but that was the one sport I actually did decently at, was tennis. I wish I could play it more, just my schedule makes it a little tough. Plus there are other factors right now. Alright, so nothing too important. They love like the relationship stuff in here. Like every wrestler and everybody that's like has their sexual orientation. I don't blink twice now seeing it, but it was a bit unexpected to start with. So what is OK Cupid when I'm setting up my initial thing? It's the personal info. Now, wait a minute. Okay, I didn't tag team with that. Yes. So I have myself in there. But as far as people that aren't in real life that are in the game, there's me and then Gary Wooder, the guy that designed the mod. So it's nothing I got too crazy as far as varying from real life. Okay, this is what I was talking about. We get that one note about somebody that they'll let you know negotiations are underway, and that's your chance to get Bandito Jr. working as Eddie Orengo. Okay. So perhaps it's different with the exclusive written as far as, not that I was going to try negotiating with her anyway, just trying to get a feel for it, because I don't want to just presume things are as necessarily simple or predictable as they were in 2016 in certain cases. Check in with the other child company, the AI-controlled one, the women's Sharp. See if they have their schedule, if they have a schedule lined up yet. So no shows yet. But they've got at least pretty good core. Yeah, the wrestling nerd nirvana. Because just like I wanted my promotion to reflect real life AEW as much as possible, I've got theirs as well. Although this is even closer. I got rid of the babyface and heel divide because I think that's ridiculous. I much prefer the sliding scale style that like New Japan uses. So you can cheer for Evil and Sonata when they're out there doing their thing normally, but when Fantastica Mania rolled around this past January and they would have an ongoing thing, just lighthearted stuff with the luchadors, they want to make sure the luchadors that they want to have cheered would actually get cheered. But in this case, I let them do it their way. So. They got a lot of momentum for not having run a single show, I gotta say. Well, they created their own titles, which was interesting. Yeah, a tag team title, a triple crown, and then a TV title. But they haven't run any shows yet, so we're all held by the always successful vacant. Well, I guess in this case, in this alternate world, Undisputed Era is working in SmackDown, putting over Cedric Alexander and R-Truth. Cedric Alexander is one of those underutilized talents in all of pro wrestling right now, for my money. I think he's got tremendous talent, and I don't watch much WWE at all, but I read the Wrestling Observer newsletter. I listen to the audio shows and all with Dave Meltzer, Brian Alvarez talking about some of these people that I came to know and become big fans of on the independent scene, Evolve, etc. But there's money to be made for Cedric somewhere. Probably not WWE, not now, but... And that's what frustrates me. If WWE can just do their own thing and truly develop their own talent in their developmental center that doesn't actually seem to do much developing of people that are starting from scratch, that'd be one thing. But this company, WWE, that takes some of my favorite wrestlers and then brings them in, which I understand, but that's the same point. I'm like, okay, you don't want me to complain about your product, don't be taking my favorites. Not that they were waiting for my permission or anything on that. All right. On to Sunday. There's a lot to process there. And this is probably going to be Petey Williams. Petey Williams. So we're all set as far as that goes. But you see now why I made all this start on a Wednesday, because even though it took several days, it's Sunday, so a little extra lead time had I needed it as far as getting them signed before the actual show. All right. Ciampa. Hey, thought Marty Scurll earlier. Okay, Brody King working with a dislocated ankle. But hey, they got a 79 match. Good for them. They've got a similar distribution with it splits YouTube into 4 different regions, which is, well, it's not realistic, but it works as far as the way the game goes. I can suspend disbelief with that and say, okay, it's just the way they do it here. Oh, and now it's Total Extreme Wrestling. That's the one that's emulating real life. Okay. Where's my little screen cap here? There's one downside to having this be a captured window versus, or it's just like a game like Fire Pro where I don't have to jump through as many hoops to get it set up. Yeah, Riddle got called up, Ciampa got called up, so those two. But on the previous day, it listed from the results that had, I think it was Roderick Strong was one of them, that tag match. So I guess in this game they finally called up those guys. Oh, hey, Hayden, I would suggest you go to, we should get the website right. It's the Total Extreme Wrestling Database. I think it's TEWDB.com. I believe that's right. And that's where they get the Killing the Business mod. And it's like, it was updated just yesterday. The one that's in my game here is already a week and a half old or whatever, because it freezes the point that you start a new game, because it's not gonna be able to, you can't update real life when the game things turn in different directions. But yeah, it's a lot. It's definitely more fun to play with that than the Cornell-verse, in my opinion. And no offense to the people that put the Cornell-verse together, it's just, we're talking about real people in the game. And this one's very balanced too. Now, there's not every wrestler under the sun available with it, and there will be other mods that come out that I'm sure will have similar real life stuff, maybe some greater depth as far as some of the independents go. I'm not sure. So we're at Sunday. I'm going to wrap up the first week. Next show is Tuesday, just a couple of days away. So Impact Wrestling held Explosion at Full Sail, using the TNA name. All these people getting called up. Oh, look at that. Oh, there's another screen cap here being obnoxious. I'll with this for later. There we go. Ah. Well, they just unveiled the AEW action figures the past weekend for the Double or Nothing pay-per-view that I ordered. Great show. Well worth the money. Okay, just one more time. All right. MJF. Oh, and what a photo for MJF. Oh, that's tremendous. Hard to vote against him. Sammy Guevara is great, but MJF, just what he's able to do on the microphone at such a young age. And he is so good at playing the heel role. Yeah, I guess Brian Cage on Dynamite tonight. Yeah, I'm cool, Phil. That's gonna be interesting because he got Taz with him. And I guess they're going to start building now for Cage versus Moxley. And that would be great. It's tough times for everybody right now with the pandemic. But it is bringing out some elements of creativity. Like the Stadium Stampede match. It's just amazing. All right, so one more day. I remember seeing her. I was backstage the very first time that ECW had a taping for the new show on TNN. It was in Toledo, Ohio. My buddy Chris was working with TNN at the time. He was handling some of the production, like setting up like the black curtains. That I came to appreciate the effort it takes to make something look ready for TV. And that was the taping that apparently Paul Heyman wasn't happy with it, and so they ended up using it for syndicated TV and used something else for when it make an air. The point being, I remember Alita, Amy, being there backstage. She has a way of getting attention. Like, who's this? Because, I was doing my best to follow what was going on at ECW. It was easier said than done in Evansville, Indiana, when I was working overnights, fresh out of college. I didn't have a ton of cash. I was sitting around for tape trading and the like. All right. Good. So Lio Rush is clear to go for tonight. He no longer has brain fog, as they called it from the last show. The auto-naming stuff is so weird with this. I don't think NXT would hold a special event with Slave in the title. Call me crazy. Now, to be fair, WWE had one balls in the title. It's Great Balls of Fire, but that's a little different. Uh-oh. Seth Rollins on social media? Getting into a tussle? Say it ain't so. One more time with the screen caps. Oh no, did it wrong. It's funny, in this game, Seth Rollins, as like the halfway point, was had Rollins as the #1 wrestler overall. And last year, for 2019, this is the same list that has Jay Lethal ahead of Kota Ibushi, though. So make of that what you will. Lio Rush has been very strong for me. He's had that sprint championship, and I've not had any motivation or inclination to take it off him. I'm going to go to his first time limit draw on this upcoming show, but he's also facing Cain Velasquez, who's one of my top guys. And it's a 10-minute time limit, so it's, I wanted to establish the belt with Lio Rush, a couple of wins to defend it to get it out of the gates. And now we established that, the time limit can come into effect, and then we'll see how it plays out from there. I like how we easily hit match history, and then now if he was working for multiple companies, he'd be able to switch out. So he beat ACH, got a great match out of Fred Yehai, which is a surprise. Got an even better match out of Hollow Wicked, which is even more of a surprise. No, Spider-Boy, they won't ever actually put that on paper like that. You know what? Well, look, WWE, they want replaceable worker bees. That's why they make you speak in a natural cadence they teach. That's why you can't look into the camera, because you can win them over with eye contact, because the eyes never lie. They micromanage everything. And people, by and large, that work there are so terrified of Vince McMahon that they keep their mouths shut. They don't talk about it. Luckily, for somebody like me, I'm a loudmouth sports guy anyway, so I'm going to speak my mind. And that goes double for situations where I see labor abuses happening. I consider it an absolute crime what WWE has done for years. It's independent contractor nonsense. And people are always, it's pro wrestling, that fake pro wrestling stuff, ha ha ha. You know how many times I've heard that? Trying to, tell people in news or sports even, but sports doesn't want to cover it because pro wrestling is a work sport. Entertainment doesn't want to cover it because it's too lowbrow. It's like The Rock. And so, down to the, away from the light of scrutiny that a lot of other sports or entertainment companies get, WWE with their absolutely disgusting labor practices. Contracts where they can secretly freeze your contract without having to give you notice, even if you get injured because of their negligence in their ring. It's... But you know what? As long as Vince McMahon is in power there, that's not going to change, I don't think. So, Lio Rush, though, he had the brain fog in the last show, Laredo Kid. But this should be a very interesting match for him against Cain Velasquez. I think it'd be great, but never know for sure. All right, Monster Clown. Well, I mean, people knew. I think, although in the kayfabe era, though, it was a lot easier for people to suspend their disbelief. I mean, look, when you watch a real fight versus, a brawl, and it looks different because it's pro headset. But, and I tell you, for all the negatives of social media, it is one way that people can, just because, the traditional media outlets, and I worked in TV news for years, sports broadcasting for years, so I know how the business works. I get it. But just because they're not interested doesn't mean other people who are fans don't share that interest. And it's been very intriguing to see it all play out through the years to now. And then who knows where from now. All right. Oh my goodness. El Ligero and the Great Okan. It was Oka from New Japan Pro Wrestling. That would not be my first choice. I saw Okan work in person in Nashville. I think it was early February of last year when New Japan came here. He was like the one Japanese wrestler they could get over here because they had visa problems, but he had been on excursion and had a visa that allowed him to work in the U.S. So we got Okan. Wow. I was not expecting to make 5 screen caps tonight, but here we are. Michael's finally... How old is he now? 54 years old, finally. He's learned how to work. We can bring him up. Okay. I'll go a quick look at how Raw did. +3.89 million viewers, huh? There was the time. All right. This is getting a little bit interesting with some of these teams. Andrade, AJ Styles, and the worst bout machine, Bray Wyatt. The most overrated wrestler possibly this side of Baron Corbin. Against Tyler Bate and Titus Worldwide in 83. Well, here's the way it works, Spider-Borg, as far as the call-ups. They can call up people they sent you as developmental. I don't know if they can call up people that I signed just to work for my company. And it's very easy to demonstrate here because I am only allowed to offer handshake deals. See, I've offered quite a few. The exclusive written. This is Joey Eastman. Give me his agent. $7,400 a month to work. It's a 2-year deal with sending him to developmental first. And it's not like his microphone skills. He's not the next coming of Gary Hart, Jim Cornette, Bobby Heenan, or any of them. Good reputation, but no star quality or any. This guy's making $7,500? Yeah, $7,400 a month. At least with Alicia Fox, she had a very positive breakout performance for me as a manager. To the point that her managing Connor the Ascension actually feels realistic to have earned a world title shot. You know, it's weird, but it somehow has worked. All right, so Lio Rush is back. We've got everybody lined up. I can take the question marks away from Petey Williams and the X because I've got his name to fill in there. I found putting the X in instead of just leaving it blank helps me not overlook something, not just miss out something to add a second wrestler. I think this auto saves pretty regularly anyway, but still. The paranoid writer in me that's always wanting to make sure that what I wrote, what it's done, is saved. Although I do have a battery backup for this computer for that very reason. All right. So here we are. I'm not going to have a show in Puerto Rico. But I have been curious how, this is similar to how 2016 was, where it's kind of weird the way it sets up where you've got to get into this first. Who's absent this week? Oh, you got to be kidding me. You know what? I got what I deserve for not looking. You've got to be kidding me. Yeah, potentially I could have Roman Reigns, I could Cena, and I don't want to say for sure that it can't because I haven't seen that definitively, and I'm just my 6th week here. Oh, this is awful. Okay, so at least I got the Rock and Roll Express to help me out with the agenting. All right, my main event's fine. My semi-main's fine. Let's see. Sabin was gonna put over Gulak here. And that's my shorthand for July of 2020, week 3. But all caps. Extra exclamation points. Okay, well, I love Gulak. I had him off the last show to sell his ref stoppage loss to Cain Velasquez in the show before. Luckily, I've got some people to help out. So, ACH, again, being out for missing 2 shows total, like it appears he'll only have to do, is certainly better than being out for like a year, which is what I thought was going to happen, like what happened to Slater. PB Smooth was somebody they sent down. I guess I can't hyperlink his name from here, but he was one of the developmentals. Petey Williams, who I just signed. I could have Perkins and Gulak team up, but I need to check something first. Oh, let's maybe jump to those stupid hoops first. I'm going to use the Citra broadcasters. They're very weird about this. I don't like it. Never have. But there are worse ways it could be. I guess you got to lock in certain things first before you find out other information. I don't know. But no backstage incidents. I do like being able to meddle. This is fun. Sometimes it works well. And in a major improvement over 2016, it tells you heads up, because before it was just a shot in the dark. It felt like it was like a random, like it rolled a die or something. Whereas if you use some strategy to it, you can see who might be a good fit. Now with Connor getting ready to lose Alicia Fox as his manager, even though I wish Connor could go up with her because they clicked well as a team. Let's see if there's somebody else I can help him hang out with here that might be I mean, just because I'm encouraging them to be friends doesn't mean they're going to actually form any sort of like major connection per se. It's an extremely high chance of failing. So I know to say, okay, let's try somebody else. Now, I already was able to get those two to be friends, I think, on the previous show. So actually I should probably go with somebody else and not Connor. Maybe somebody for Big Cass to hang out with. I never knew that. Alicia Fox and Wade Barrett dated? Stu Bennett? It wasn't a love interest thing, though. It was her as like this, that kind of crazy character she played. And actually she was very good at it in WWE for like a couple of weeks. And then she got to be a little too good at it because they don't want anybody to shine too much. And that got watered down and flattened real quick. Let's see if Big Cass and Max Stardom can hit it off. Fairly high chance of succeeding. Real fact. Okay. But I have to set the broadcasters. What you think they would make? I guess that's the one that's lit up. You'll figure it out eventually. Oh, that's wrong. That's for this screen. Oh no, so we have to click here. Hyperlink text is supposed to be a different color. I've been doing websites for 25 years. I know this. Maybe it's not possible in this game. Maybe it's something with the mod. I don't think so. You just know to click there. And to everyone and say, use this broadcaster. Back over here, use this broadcaster, etc. Not the most tedious thing in the world, but just annoying because I have to do it every time this way. I imagine it'll just be renewing the deals when the 53 days runs up. I mean, I'd like to think you get that popularity boosted, but it's going to be a slow roll on that, I'm afraid. Yes, I want to save it. So my YouTube distribution. I almost feel bad about this, but if this were real life, I really would feel bad about it. Alicia Fox, saying that Connor's going to leave, he Slayer lay and leave him out, and then Slater got hurt. Okay. I'll positive. You'll hear me complain about stuff because that's just how it is. But you'll hear me also praise stuff. So, the idea with this for me is like if somebody's watching this trying to figure out, should I buy this game? If they own 2016, what's new, what's not new? I'm just giving my honest opinion. But any negativity here, any complaining, please understand that's a minor thing in the grand scheme of things. This game's a lot of fun. The depth to it is just unreal. All right. All I have to do with this where it says wrestling royalty. I click here, cancel gimmick, no gimmick. Now, you have to be careful because every company has things set a different way. With mine, nobody has to have a gimmick. But if you do, it can either help you or hurt you. Which I like. To me, that's like the perfect way to have it set up. Wrestling royalty. Come on, the Rock and Roll Express. You guys are beloved. I mean, gimmick. But this, before, it was like a 6-step process that was very like unwieldy and unnecessarily long. So I definitely am pleased to have it now where it's much quicker. Now I might keep the Thrill Seeker with Zenshi. I'll think it over. Kota Brazil. Like if somebody has a gimmick, that needs to be a gimmick, not just arrogant youth or old school face or whatever. That's not really a good fit. So there's Danhausen. So we've got it for this show and one more. Alicia Fox. Maybe I'll have her for one more show after the Connor title challenge. Maybe that's be the blow off. Yeah, Nia Jax, she's had some bad luck with her opponents getting banged up. More than just banged up. Alright. So a Thrill Seeker for Zenshi. Danhausen's going up soon. Fox is going up relatively soon. No season finale. How do we have a season finale? We don't have a true TV show. It's just weekly events that we run at the same time every week. We're not running Puerto Rico. Or anywhere else but the Southeast. Come on. Now, I still imagine I'm going to go with the generic venue. 26, we're from 24 to 26. This is very, very slow growth. But we did have a strong viewership. I mean, especially compared to like almost no viewership for the last show, the first one of July. We moved from popularity 0 to 1. All right. Generic venue, Southeast, Super Set. Well, you know what, Simclay, you're right. You never know with some of these gimmicks and the way this game is in this version in particular. Sometimes things don't go the way you think they will. At least from what I've experienced thus far compared with past versions of the game where it wasn't necessarily a predictable thing, but it became at least somewhat like that. All right, the way I put shows together, I start from the top, and while I've got it penciled in here for certain promos or whatever, I save that until I get my 102 minutes of wrestling set. That gives me 18 minutes. That's a split, 85%, 15%. That's kind of the way they said it, and I was more than happy to do it that way. But I put these little notes in here to remind myself that I go back and add them. Well, that's the way I've been doing it, because otherwise I'll end up losing track of how much time I've got for matches versus for promos. That's just the way I do it. So, main event will be the first defense of the Launch World Tag Team Championship from the former Revival, now FTR. Cash Wheeler, the former Dash Wilder, and Dax Harwood, the former Scott Dawson. And they're teaming against a team of Jesse Goddard and Kenny Doan. And this is one of those, I'm like, yeah, this is a developmental promotion. You know, for one popularity, we got 26 people showing up to this show. But I still want to put on a good performance for them. The challenge here is this is my main event, and Doan has only got like a 21 popularity for the Southeast. Or anywhere in the U.S. But I'm maxed out as far as like the 55, I think is as large as anybody's going to get, popularity-wise, working for me. I mean, it's either that or it's just a coincidence that Hero and Cass and Brody King and Cash Wheeler and Dax Harwood, all those guys are right at 55. And look, I've been around pro wrestling long enough to know that there are coincidences, and then there's your real life. The whole thing of, you know, there are no true coincidences in pro wrestling, if you want to believe that or not. Okay, so FTR defending against Goddard and Doan. It's a main event, but I won't go too long with it. It'll go like 16 minutes. Tag title on the line. My refs. Before I was trying to like nickel and dime it, like not booking Jimmy Corderas because he's 220 plus travel. But this is something where the parent company's paying for it, and they're okay with it, so I'm gonna do it that way. But Mike Kyoto is my ace, my top referee. Oh, I can't use Gail Kim. So much for having her be able to handle the agent duties. But I'm going to back out of this, and I'll show you why. Go to my roster. There's a page that has the list. It's a little bit non-intuitive, as I recall. Skills, maybe. No, it's just on skills. It's not talk to worker. There it is. Again, the mystery hyperlink. You just have to know to click on his name there, not his skills or his popularity, any of this that seems obvious. You got to find this hyperlink that's not marked and just happen to click on it. And that's how you have to find it. And that's garbage. But again, in the grand scheme of things, I can get over it. And once you learn where it is, you can work with it that way. Occasional wrestler, road agent. That's what I'm getting at with this. Now, why doesn't it let me click on road agent? What's up with that? Well, guess what? He's gonna be a road agent anyway. He was effective at it before. I still can't believe that thing with Impact. I mean, I didn't learn my lesson from the first week. I just figured they had their marathon tapings and they had their pay-per-view event or whatever, and I thought, okay, now they're done for a while. Thinking this is, reflective of real life, and then here they are and because they're a larger company, they get first dibs. So I'm not happy about that, but I'm disappointed in myself for not catching that. We're not thinking to look for it. But nevertheless, we will make it work. So I'll go with Gregory Helms, my one official road agent. My kid, my ace. This is where I'll, below the show, try to keep track of this from the last show so I can get rid of that. And this way I know for 3 matches down the line so I don't forget which ref and which road agent I had for a given match. So Kyoto and Helms. TR against, I guess I can write their full names out, it's not that long. It was 16 minutes. Cash get the win this time. I had Dax get it sometimes. It's going to go back and forth. I'll keep Goddard's a little stronger. I'm not going to use the keep him strong, whatever, individual focus or the match style, but it'll be Doan that does the job. Decisive win. I really don't care if it's an open match. However, we'll let them figure it out. So at least it's rather simple. If you want to not spend an inordinate amount of time going through match by match, laying stuff out, you can zip on through. If you want to go through and be very meticulous with it, that is also an option. I love this part that it tells you that, hey, you might want to put your championship up there. I remember the first time, but it didn't recall this when I loaded this back up. Okay. And so, again, as noted, there's a hype video, and then, there's stuff I had planned for the sizzle to go with the proverbial steak. But I start with the matches. And normally I don't have the sprint title this high up, but I've got Lio Rush, who is a 55. He's topped out. Velasquez a 50. And part of that's also to kind of offset having a guy with a 21 popularity in the main event. Give him something special for the semi-main. And luckily, Lio Rush is now over his brain fog. As you see, those are old injuries. As in, he got over it yesterday. And the way I've got it set up, I can always use some discretion if I wanted to, but I don't think I would. If he's not able to defend his title, he has to vacate it. That's the gimmick with the championship. 10-minute time limit. Now, if you're there and you can retain as a time limit draw, which is going to be the result here, then you keep the title and get to go back the next week. And this was something I developed with the last game I played with 2016, the Thunderverse, which if you ever want to play with like make-believe or made-up wrestlers that are actually very well done and have like their own intricate, interesting backstory, the Thunderverse, if they make one for 2020, highly recommended. Although I really prefer going with either modern day or probably whenever this one runs its course, and hopefully that won't be for a long while, but go back to like one of those that is like a period piece. Like, you know, like what if Joe Pedicino really would have had that $15 million from the Nigerians? Or 1,000 other ways you can do it. Like maybe WWF after WrestleMania 6. And that's the level of depth this game offers. All sorts of options. So there's Lio Rush, Cain Velasquez. So we have a 10-minute time limit. Be careful with the draw, because this happened to me once before in that aforementioned Thunderverse game. I had it set for a draw, but I didn't go down here. Even where I know where it is, I have to dig a little bit to go to time limit draw, time limit finish. A couple of dusty finishes on top, and that's moved some stuff down that used to be higher because they've added more options. More options is, you know, a good thing. I just wish this time limit finish would be a little higher up. Not the end of the world, though. Yeah, that's interesting, Spiderborg. If you had a FCW with those guys, you know, Roman was under a different name at first there, but yeah, Rollins, Ambrose, and Tyler Breeze was in developmental for so long. I was talking about that the other night. Tyler Breeze was between FCW and NXT, was down in developmental for 3-4 years, whatever. He gets called up to the main roster, and he loses on television in his first match with the main roster. And that is a great case in point for the absolute horrible disconnect that exists between main roster WWE and its supposed developmental system. So we'll go all-out match, open match, and I have noted before that I don't like this part as well. To get out of the screen, you hit X. There's no need to hit save, even though it will save. But if I X out of this, then I would, because there was a book segment there. So there are some certain elements in here that are, you know, I would think not conducive to fun gameplay. But overall, I mean, this is just minor in the grand scheme of things. So for Agent, luckily, even though I didn't have Ricky Morton wanting to be classified as a road agent, all I have to do is go to all, plug him in there, and we'll see. Chris Hero is also an excellent road agent in this game, or at least enough they don't complain about him. She's not as good as Gail Kim, though. She's been really good, but she's working Impact. Ugh. And I'm less mad about her working Impact, more mad that I didn't think to look. Anyway, so let's see. Yep, time limit draw. It just says. No, it doesn't say time limit. Okay, I did this one all wrong. First off, it doesn't need to have Great Bout, the All Out, because that comes with Steal the Show. I'm required to have at least one Steal the Show for every show. Yeah, I'm cool, Phil. I agree. The problem with NXT, I said this before, and it's the truth, though, and it's to the point now where NXT fans, I mean, first of all, the product has taken a nosedive now that it's gotten the Kevin Dunn, Vince McMahon, you can tell their influence. It also stared at that 0.13 in persons 18 to 49 last week, their all-time low. Now they're calling up Riddle. And now they've managed to kill off as many of the indies as possible, or at least cut back on their talent level. Now they can't just take somebody else and bring them in. Not particularly easily. Certainly not now in the pandemic, but I mean, it's not like circa, you know, early 2016. There's just so much talent out there. But the track record. Although if you look online, there's a lot with that performance center that has less to do with actually getting people ready to be superstars, more to do with getting them to be compliant and scared and afraid of the company, walking on eggshells. There's a really good video of Lacey Evans from about 3 years ago. She had a guest thing where she was running drills, and it was Sammy Guevara, and she was like getting after him for the way he was doing his drills, and it was just that whole thing, trying to beat down the things that make you special, to flatten you. That's what they do. The main roster is where beloved NXT acts go to die. And anybody that was there in the building that night for NXT TakeOver Dallas 4 years ago, I mean, you look at that card, with the exception of Baron Corbin, of course, everybody else, to one degree or another, was underutilized. But they've got so much talent on the roster that under contract, but then I don't know. That company's a mess. Luckily, there are other options. So okay, as I noted there, I have to be double checked. So it's steal the show, but time limits. Thought I'd hit the right thing, but clearly I had time limit finish. Oh, okay, I did. But aggressive there on after having it not show up correctly before. So it's a time limit draw with a time limit, and steal the show. We'll have Corderis ref this match. A reminder for next time with the exclamation points. Okay, so for this match, Corderis R. Morton. We should be good. Oh, title on the line. Although it would have reminded me had I forgotten that. All right. And so now the number one contender match between Connor and Big Cass. As crazy as it sounds, you might see this actually. This match is going to be a relatively short match, I anticipate. Connor's been on a big winning streak. He's had Alicia Fox, which has helped him out from a establishment, a personality standpoint as far as the way he's perceived. Not just some guy that got stuck with another example of NXT botching something horribly. The Ascension were one day shy of having a 365-day reign. They had 364, that was it. But they spent a lot of time being built up in developmental. In week one, they get put on main roster television, and they're being, displayed, treated like Road Warrior ripoffs, Demolition ripoffs, Powers of Pain, etc. And it's just like, how can you allow yourself to get emotionally involved with the NXT storylines, even when they were good, knowing or learning, hoping that was only going to be the one time they would get better as far as bringing up talent, and they just didn't get any better. Anything that got worse. So we got not a technical masterclass here, but two big guys that have had winning streaks. Let's see, stamina. You see for Connor, it's not bad. Hey, you know what? With 13 minutes. A wrestling themed playlist. I could. A few things with that. First of all, I'm very concerned about getting dinged for a copyright for music. So I've stick with the millionaire music, because if they're gonna be with one, then so be it. They got me. But I have several different themes going. I know how those bots are. I know from doing sports broadcasts, it absolutely killed me. We had to not have our exterior microphone for the high school I called football games for, American football. And that was because for us streaming live on YouTube, we were afraid of getting music from way in the background even picked up, and then YouTube knocking our signal offline because of music copyright or whatever. It's one of those shoot first and ask questions later. And what are you going to do about it to stop it? Because it's freaking YouTube. You're going to go fight Google over it? Let me know how that turns out for you. So, I get it with the music as far as it'd be nice to have a variety, some themes underneath or whatever, but that's my thought with this. If there was nothing, if I like stepped away for 2 minutes, just dead air, and the radio/TV guy, I mean, can't stand that. But if you're asking about if you could do that yourself versus me or whatever, then yeah, I mean, that's an option. You can do all sorts of things. Put the Rougeau Brothers theme song on repeat. That's one thing with the theme music. Go back to like late 80s WWF. I mean, it helped they had Jimmy Hart there. And then Jim, the guy that their primary music guy, just phenomenal. All right, so a little more aggressive time-wise, but 13 minutes. Referees. I'll go with Sinclair here. Todd Sinclair from Ring of Honor. And then I could have Gregory Helms. I think I will. I'll have Helms also do this one. Now, I have my own system, like I do with a lot of things. Like I have 4 matches per line as far as the ref and then the agent. And I'll drop, even have space for a 5th, otherwise it'll get thrown off. That's just, for me, that's my way of doing it. All right, so let's add some notes. It's going to be Connor, open match. We'll give it a decisive win. Let's see, so regular Connor, open, decisive finish. I think you have to X to close that out, to save it by hitting X. All right, so that should be good to go. 13 minutes. The proper winner. Don't want to put the wrong name in there. That'd be a disaster. Although I do have thoughts for Big Cass potentially getting a title shot on down the line because he's got that 55 popularity. And he's been pretty well protected by the booking. This will be his first actual time to drop a fall, pinfall, or submission, whatever it ends up being. So we're at 45 minutes. I'll write the split here just because it's a nice visual reminder. 102 minutes for the matches, 18 minutes for promos, interviews, angles, etc. I will add the stuff between the matches after I get the matches laid out. Although I'll wait for the pre-show for the very end because I'm saving it. I do it this way because I want to count the time right. Otherwise, okay, this angle is 3 minutes. I'm doing math. It's a waste of time. Now the triangles thing, I'll complain about this every time, and I probably will again tonight because I don't get it. Before I do that though, roster. So I want to see with Perkins and Gulak. This is interesting because this reminds me of the last show where I wasn't able to, or I was able to use Laredo Kid because even though he had a deal with Impact, I guess they didn't use him. But I didn't have TJP last week, and I'm hoping this means the game will actually let you use the person. If New Japan doesn't take him for this day and Impact doesn't have for their show, then it goes to me. Because the way it was before, at least every time I ever played it, and I played through that game several times, the older versions, if somebody else had the right of first refusal over you, you couldn't use them. Even though the other way around, when you'd have a larger company, you had first dibs, if you passed up on somebody, then that smaller computer-run company again. Like, no, that's not right. You know? If you can do it, why can't I? Anyway. So I was more pulling this up to see his list. So him and Gulak. But my inclination would be more to have, okay, first of all, let's get the... Okay, I've had one match with him so far here. Okay. Now, as far as who I might... And some of this might be slightly dated, but I think it's from after the last show as far as the popularity. I could have Gulak and Perkins team out. I could have them just face off, but then I don't want either one to lose because they're both slated to win. I might just keep them in singles matches. I could always throw them in there with... Well, I don't want to completely job out Hawkins and Ryder because they get that popularity. I don't want to just throw that away. Suppose I could put Shannon Moore in there. And at some point I might have Perkins and Gulak team up, but I don't think this is the show to do it. I could go Gulak versus Moore, but I'm not sure if they've had a match. I should probably pick out Gulak's first, since I know with TJP he's had exactly one match for me. It's ACH who's injured, not even working this show. Point being, there are plenty of options for a TJ Perkins opponent, and there are slightly fewer for Drew Gulak. Right. I had Slater and Gulak team up, but Slater's out for a year. Or I guess now he had surgery, so it's down to 8 months. It was a successful surgery, but still out for a long time. But for now, I'm going to go with just a more standard type. Oh, wait a minute. Get ahead of myself here. So I was looking at Gulak and who I'd have him face off against. I could hire somebody local, but there's only a few guys to choose from, and I don't want to overdo that at all, if at all possible. So ultimately, building toward ACH versus TJP return match, because their first match, the first match overall in this game for TJP, and they went to a 20-minute draw. So I definitely want to keep TJP strong on this show and book him to win. I mean, popularity isn't the end-all be-all. I've got a guy with a 21 popularity in my main event, so keep that in mind. But I don't want to just job somebody out for no reason if they're popular. And I'm also of the opinion you're not well served to book the same, all your wrestlers on the same show week after week after week. You know, you get sick of them. You get sick of everybody after a while. The whole line about how can they miss you if you won't go away. So if one of them's Shannon Moore. And that eventually is going to get picked back up, Gulak and Velasquez. But even in the course of a 2-hour show, there's a limit on how much you can focus on as far as the various elements. Otherwise, you turn to a Russo disaster where you got so many things happening at once that nothing resonates, and there's no internal logic, so there's no emotional connection, and so every product he touches dies. In case you think it was, coincidence. They can always move somebody up from a... Let's see. I mean, look at those skills, though. Maybe this is the chance to have Turn a negative into a positive with max stardom. I mean, a technician, right? Oh. It's kind of a wide range. So my plan had been, with Chris Sabin on the card, to have Gulak and Sabin in a technical master class. I might try that here and see what happens. Or I might go just with an open match. That takes Stardom out. And I'll find somebody else later on. A team with Facade against the Rock and Roll Express, but we'll get to that. I can go TJP. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, now this is even more of a rip. So much having TJP. All right. So no TJ Perkins on this show. It's so disappointing. But lesson learned, you know. I wasn't thorough enough. Alright, so we'll go Gulak, Shannon Moore. Or, even better, I could have Shannon Moore face question mark. And actually bump that up to a 4, move Gulak back down to 5. Trade back in with max stardom. Because typically you want to have a technical masterclass type match earlier in the show. And that can be tricky if you have some very good technical wrestlers who are also your top tier guys. But on a show like this, and again, have that easy fallback. It's developmental, so I have options. So now the question is, who should I have? Shannon Moore. Oh, come on. Shannon Moore is at 41 popularity-wise. Maybe yay high. Let's make sure with Shannon Moore that I know his match history enough to. If somebody was like on opposite sides the week before, I don't want to team them up unless there's a good reason to. There's also Gregory Helms. I didn't think about that. So I'm just going to have him just agent. Get out of this. Okay, now I Casanova taking on Helms, so never mind. Let's see. Okay, yay high is what I said, right? Yay high is a wrestler that I like a lot more in real life than how he's portrayed in the game as far as his stats. Yay high. In the right spot, I think he's got a lot of potential for the long term, from what I've seen. He was good in Evolve, I know that. All right, so. Shenmore, Fred Yehai. Stamina, not bad. Not bad at all. Give him some time. That's why I keep this in a certain order with my road agents and referees, so I don't have it start to run together. So I have guys helping out with the road agents thing. Chris Hero's my world champion, but I don't have him wrestling on this show because, like I said before, I don't think it makes sense. It doesn't do you or your roster any good to have them on the same show week after week after week. I mean, you can have like a sit-down interview element, but not where it's just not the way that WWE main roster television is, certainly. I just can't stand it. I don't know people can sit through 3 hours of Raw with the commercials, not able to fast forward to the terrible segments. And yet that company has so much talent. And I'm not blaming the talent with any of it. They're doing what they're told. All right. Shannon Moore. Oh, come on. Decisive win. Open match. So Moore gets the win. And he's more popular than Yehai is, but with the open match, hopefully the perception will be that Yehai could be a flash pinfall. Let me do that. Oh, come on. So we'll see if 14 minutes, well, that's a calculated risk, but if I have to cut time before I'm done putting the match, I'm already at 61 minutes. I'm looking at a technical match that's going to be more than 15, so this match will get trimmed. I'll take the liberty of doing that now, at least to 12, and I can cut it more later if I need to. So Gulak and Max Stardom in a technical match. Gulak was already booked, he wasn't, but I was wondering why the Revival guys were in there. That's why. And again, I wish it would default to this, but that's never happened in this series. That's not the way it is. At least not that I've seen. So, Gulak against Max Stardom. The set, oof. 17 Southeast. Maybe that's a reason to just move this down from the number 5 spot to the number 6. I didn't write down who I had for match number 4. Oh, come on. This thing gets on my nerves sometimes. Kyoto and Hero. And again, while there's room, I could add a 5th here. I'm not going to. It's much easier this way. So Gulak and Stardom. A menu swap? Haven't run across that individual. At least I can pull this part down and say, okay, this is match number 4, Kyoto Hero. We already got that. Gulak and Stardom. Well, I was going to possibly bump that down a spot. Get Skinner in here talking about swamps. So I could move Gulak and... Yeah, I think I'm going to do that. because my company is so, I mean, it's literally, it says insignificant. So if I have some lower end guys as far as popularity goes in the middle of my card, it doesn't matter that much. That's the way the game treats it. So if I go Corderis, and then see how Robert Gibson does on that 5th match. Because it's up to the 6th spot. Again, this is why I do it this way. We can go referees at. We'll go with Mickey Henson. We'll go Henson and Helms. So the road agent notes that Gulak will be the winner. Decisive. Technical masterclass. And with a technical masterclass match, you generally need to go at least 15 minutes. So I'm going 16. But that's really match number 6. Because match number 5 will be Casanova against Helms. And I'm hopeful that Christian Casanova can turn to a breakout star for being 26 years old. It would be a little easier if I were running New England, but nevertheless, we'll see how he does here. We have the wily veteran Gregory Helms. A little shorter with this. Helm, stamina, not bad. Casanova's not terrible, but this is more a function of fitting in 8 matches within 102 minutes, including the non-wrestling time. So, Casanova wins. Open match. And a decisive winner. I'm probably making that Colognes versus Hall and Danhausen match my storytelling match, but we'll get to that in a minute. So this one I'm going to have Corderis and no, Corderis, yeah, and Gibson, and then Robert Gibson. That's match number 5, so I can use this lovely triangle system to move it up 1. I'm going to move it at 1 spot, that's a little more feasible. Okay, I don't need the asterisks anymore, since that was my reminder to make sure I had that in there for the 5th match. In the grand scheme of things, I don't even know how much this really matters with the, but to me it does. But this kind of, time and attention to detail into it, to at least makes sense. As much as I complain about pro wrestling, it doesn't make sense, and there's been plenty of it through the years. Okay, number 7. Danhausen's going up to the main roster, so I'll have him lose the fall. And I'm setting the Colognes to face FTR the following month to challenge for the World Tag Championship. They haven't had a match yet against each other. That's number 7. That's next. Primo Epico. Cody Hall. And Donovan Danhausen. Give him like 8 minutes. I think one of these was like especially happier than the other. At least Epico's the happier of the two. Primo, warm, versus Momentum, happy. Epico, warm, very happy. So, we'll have Primo take or win the match. The one who gets the deciding fall, the loser. Well, it goes to Danhausen since he's on his way out. Decisive win. Storytelling, so it's not too complicated. Right, so I would go with Sinclair as my referee. Ricky Morton as the road agent. When we see the bar go from red to yellow, that shows you that technically you could start your show. It's wide range because this is technically classified as a weekly event versus a TV show, which that's just the way you have to do it. But as I've noted before, the TV news producer and me, I mean, in television there is no just, floating time. You got to hit on the dot. I mean, it's one thing in this game when it's a game. It's another like when you're in the booth in the control room and you've got like 3 live shots and you've got breaking news and just going crazy. Much less stressful with this. I can deal with triangles versus dealing with, a supervisor calling me up to let me know something I already know, and I'm trying to handle 2 people that are live and a third that's calling them because their IFB's messed up. Anyway. So 98 minutes. I'll give Zenshi a win. Probably 6 or 7. I'll do some time trimming to cover the rest. We'll get our 8 matches in. I'll add the sizzle, the promos and angles and such. Throw in the pre-show. Take it for a spin. Zenshi against Bestia 666. Zenshi, the new signee, with the win. Decisive match. Easy enough. So I don't have to keep just 4 referees. I can use Justin King for this match. That's fine. We'll have Chris Hero do the agent. So at 106, I have to trim 4 minutes, which is fine. I can't touch the time limit draw. The main event needs to stay at that length. Connor and Big Cass, we can go 12 minutes. I'll keep them at 9. They're on 8, so that's the technical masterclass really needs to go at least 15. Okay, we'll trim some here from the AI more. 103. going to have a ceiling to it anyway as far as the rating goes because it's storytelling. So 7 minutes. They can't all be 20-minute classics. Start at 102. And now fill the rest in, starting with the video to hype the main event. And I definitely like the way it starts you at freestyle angle. There are times, especially if you've played previous versions of this game, a lot of what you remember from before will still be in here, but more often than not, I find that people utilize a lot of different elements with this freestyle that improve things quite a bit. Gives you more flexibility, particularly to match up your particular wrestler's skills and... Come on. Let's see, for selling, because that's one of the elements you can have within one of these freestyle angles, is, selling. This had been pointed out to me, quite helpfully so. And let's see, so Goddard's, I could do that. I don't have to do one for it. But Kenny Doan, selling, no, not as much. There are certain elements that, if it won't punish you, will certainly cap you at. One's like sex appeal. That doesn't really play into this. Overness, because those two guys are over. I mean, look at it. Wheeler at 55, Harwood 55. It's a preview video. Hype video for FTR versus Jesse Goddard's and Kenny Doan. And I'll just let Helms be the road agent for these, as silly as that is. That's, well, she should work to our advantage to have him in there. A slight help, if nothing else. And here we go. I would welcome somebody explaining this to me. If I'm missing something with the triangles, or why it's done like this. Because for the life of me, I can't figure it out. I figure out how to do it, it's just very unnecessarily tedious. Right. It's unusual for me to have like multiple non-match elements. Okay, that'll work. Because I'm going to have an announcement for Hero versus Connor, because, spoiler, Connor wins. But since I'm booking from the top down, all I need is really like a 1 minute, like a slate as they call it in the broadcasting biz, just an announcement of a match. And I might be able to find that here, although if that's the case, I don't want to have Connor's popularity come into it. He's like at a 40 something, 42. Heroes at 55. So we announced the match. I could go with Alicia Fox there as a... She's been very good on the microphone. And because it's open-ended, I can just put... Hero will defend the world title next week versus Connor. I guess we'll go minor success. Hope not messing something up doing it that way, but It's freestyle. It's a lot for a 1 minute segment, but it's there for a reason. Let's see. And so with the time limit draw for the sprint title, so Lio Rush will retain. And then after the match, Gulak, who's biding his time backstage or whatever. I haven't done very much as far as like physical attacks like this, but every now and then it can make for an effective way to heat up a rivalry. There's you really do advance at least one per show. Like ACH, I may have him do an update saying although with Perkins not there, I might just not do that, so I don't have to pay ACH to cut a promo for me, which is precisely what it would be. But I'll still think about it, because it could happen. Alicia Fox and Connor, she's going to be... I worked Hero in as well. And that's a good thing. Because I knew that with Alicia Fox leaving, the heat is at 42, so how viable it truly proves to be, I don't know. But at least that gets a storyline set up for the next world title match, which is going to be 1 week from tonight, as far as this show goes. Big Cass, Cody Hall, it's kind of just hanging around there. But Cass elsewhere. And that we already mentioned. Now. Okay, I'll leave that for now. So we'll have, again, this is working backward, but after that match, I'm pointing at the screen as if you could see me pointing to the arrows there. So after that match, I'll add this sneak attack. Post-match beatdown. No, that's not the one. No, that's not the one either. Well, he didn't really win. He went to a draw. I'll stick with freestyle. Thank you very much. I don't remember who I had to agent that last match. I'll get back to that later. So we'll say the match, Drew Gulak. Great part is I can leave this blank if I want to. So Gulak will be attacking Cain Velasquez. He's got the popularity, that 50. Gulak's at 47, so I might actually go ahead and just put both there for overness. Attack it laid out. Lio Rush did nothing to stop him. Hopefully this will fit. I need to stop Gulak. Pronouns, pal. Actually, work Lio Rush in with this as well. So I don't believe he's in a storyline at the moment. Nope. He's I almost never make any changes to the game where I'm not streaming, because I want to have as much on here as possible. But the exception was when I was going through, I didn't even think about it last night when I was setting it up, and I stuck Hero in the storyline, but that didn't alter anything as far as the way this played out. I could have done it right now if it had the same effect. So, Booker. Lio Rush. Sporting role. And this is a little subtle detail I didn't really pick up on initially, but like Cain isn't, he's not aligned with anyone, you can see right there, but because if somebody is aligned, it'll show up. I can't really give you a good example here, it's not going to give it to me. Like if those two are aligned, then it would say like none or no alignment or something, where you could change it if you needed to. Like here, I'll show you. Like I made nobody, that's what it needs to be, versus Cain. No alignment, no alignment, no alignment. I guess I can't alter the title, which is fine. I guess there's an alter storyline. Okay, that was not what I was going for. Maybe I just X out. Okay. I need to take out the period at the end. I know it's a complete sentence, but so it's matches everything. We'll do it like this, and of course the triangles. And again, do angle like that. It's very unusual for me. But one is just a slate that shows it's official because of where Connor is going to be big cast earlier in the show, and then now we've got it for next week. The hype video for the main event, a World Tag Team title defense, the very first one in the company. I mean, FTR won it. It was a vacant title they won. So the first defense tonight, I think, deserves its 2-minute hype video. The Gulak jumping Velasquez post-match. It was all a little different. You had a video, you got like an on-screen announcement, a VO, not even a VO. VO means there's video playing, or just an anchor read, as they call it in the TV news business. And then this is an attack. So 3 different things. This is angle, it's LR. Or 108. Let's get to 120, which means 12 more minutes to go as far as. Because it's like 2 minutes, 1 minute, 3 minutes. So it's not like it's a 8-minute epic, elaborate 5-turn angle to eat up a bunch of time. But that's fine. We're going to get the most out of Alicia Fox we can before we lose her to the main roster. That's actually going to go here. This is after the match. She'll be able to speak her mind about it. So Alicia Fox, Connor. Talking about Chris Hero. Minor success. And Alicia Fox has proven to be very good at ad-libbing. So no script. Alicia Fox warns Chris Hero Connor will capture Hero's world title on next week's show. Come on. Right. Nine minutes to go. So, the Alicia Fox promo. And here's what I'm going to have Dave Prazak. The last few shows I've had it where Prazak comes out and like warms up the audience essentially, and does the equivalent of New Japan at a Korakuen show where you get the ring announcer reading the full list of matches on the night. But it's not necessarily something that has to be part of this. But he's going to be there. He's my CEO, so it makes sense to use him. Likewise, I got Chris Hero doing a lot of agenting. Also have him there to. Because even like I think in an announcement that mentions him, he would still get paid. I think that's the case. As if he is an appearance, it's just an announcement. I think that's right. But that's more for 2016, so I can't say for sure for 2020. So we'll have Dave Prazak sit down with Chris Hero. Talk about Connor and talk about Alicia Fox. Prazak. Interviews. Chris Hero. Shares his thoughts on tonight's number one contender match. 5 minutes is kind of long, but I can always trim it back if I need to. This will get me to 4 minutes remaining. I've seen a video earlier in the show hyping that match as well, but I don't have to do that. So 4 minutes to go. I've got an idea. So ACH. Now, granted, I had Heath Slater suffered that meniscus injury in his knee. That was the biggest injury to come out of the last show. Although ACH with the partial tear in his bicep is going to be out until 2 weeks from now. But it's a lot quicker than it could have been. So ACH says he's injured, but will return soon to track down TJ Perkins. And so there is some latitude you got to take as far as on video, because it'd be more about microphone than overness. He's at 51, so guess what? That's what I'm doing. Plus, it's a 2-minute video. It shouldn't be a sink or swim. I'll add a 2-minute video hyping that Connor vs. Big Cass match. Overness, of course, for Big Cass. I'll just leave it like that. video promotes tonight's #1 contender match between Connor and Big Cass. Even though that might be the most fair way to do it. Nonetheless, it's a video, so that's how I'm going to do it. So we're now at 120 minutes. You'll notice the bar is still yellow, despite me hitting it on the nose. That's because I still haven't booked a car crash, mayhem, or wild brawl match. That's what the pre-show's for. Alright, so I took away Max Stardom to have him on the main card. Good technical skill, or at least he's supposed to. We'll see. If Gulak can get a good match out of him, that's going to tell me something. Well, that's part of the idea. It's a developmental territory. And ultimately, there should be a place where those sorts of answers can be learned. So the pre-show tag match. Robert Gibson against Facade, High Flyer. As much as I like to give Red like a big push or whatever, I've tried. It's not quite worked. The fans have kind of rejected him. This is for the pre-show though, so it's a little different. Pretty sure Red has not had a match involving Facade, but I want to double check. It's a Warrior Wrestling that gets thrown in there. The 50 rating on his legs for physical health, but the pre-show, we'll put him in there. Most definitely not be 15 minutes, like 8. This will not be the mayhem or car crash match either. Simple enough. Ricky gets the win. Red will take the loss. Decisive. So we're good. Although now that I'm thinking about it, it's always something. Let's see. King and Hero. Just lay out there, put the semicolon instead of a comma, as a way to remind myself that's where the regular show ends. Working backwards, it goes to the pre-show section. So, let's see. Go with Kyoto. And Ricky Morton. Oh, I'm way off here. That's not what I wanted. That's what I wanted. King and Hero. It's this match. Although it can't be Morton here because he can't agent his own match. Mickey Henson. And we'll go with Helms. All right, so Henson, the referee. Helms, the road agent. Pre-show, about as straightforward as it gets. Briggs is one of the developmental send-downs. We have Danhausen, booked. Eastman is a manager, booked. Alicia Fox, manager, on her way out soon, booked. And then Briggs, and he'll come in here. Giant in the form of Briggs. And there's Eris. So brawling. Not so much on brawling. Well, we can do like 6 minutes. King and Gibson for. Well, that'll go up. Yeah, we'll go Gibson. I already have 2 for Morton. Gibson with Justin King. It's the undercard after all. Make sure that's marked. Yes, it is. So the victor will be Josh Briggs, one of the developmental wrestlers sent down from AEW for me to help get some seasoning. And we had a car crash. Decisive win. Because I added the car crash to that match. That officially gave me the green line. I have 1 more match to add. Hollow Wicked and Coda Brazil. So 7 minutes. Hollow Wicked. Decisive win. Let's see if Brazil will take a stunt bump. Gotta be at least medium. That's what most of them say, which is fine. I mean, I wouldn't have to do a stunt bump on the pre-show anyway. That's risky enough as it is. I've got to have a car crash one of my pre-show because I don't want to have it on my main show. So regular match type, Hollow Wicked, the winner. The decisive finish. We'll keep it relatively short. That's 7 minutes. Referees. Cordera's call one more. And Chris Hero will be the agent. It's pretty straightforward. Always want to make sure I didn't have anything that's out of place or out of order. So I cut a promo talking about a match that hasn't happened yet. Like the results of it. Best to be avoided. Okay. I'm going to change the way this is written. Semicolon there. I mean, I can make it a couple of sentences if I wanted to. It's open-ended in a lot of ways. That's a good thing. Kind of the unpredictability that's higher here, but it doesn't feel like sheer randomness. No, I don't think Mr. Hunt's in the round there. All right, pre-show, we got that. video for Connor and Big Cass. Keeping that one relatively short. Technical match. ACH. Promo. Casanova. And I'm hoping that'll be a good match because Casanova's got a chance to be like my first, start from the undercard, work his way up type star, but I'm not sure if the end ring is going to be there. So it'll be a good test tonight for Casanova against a very solid and well-respected opponent, Gregory Helms. Hero talks about the number one contender match. No, I've seen that one before. Let's see. Okay. So you got Hero talking about it. Sitting down with Prazak. We got Shannon Moore, Fred Yehai. That's where I kind of had to readjust things because I think people were working Impact again. Anyway, that's on me though. I can't get too mad about it. I didn't learn my lesson from the last week. Storylines. We got Gulak, Velasquez, and it did save Lio Rush. There's that music jump every 62 minutes. I believe we're ready to go. Not bad for an opener. That's a good start. Brazil being the 33 ring performances, and it's good. Hallow Wicked. It's another good match for Hallow Wicked. And unfortunately, because I do have a crowd of I got 28 people in a generic building, even though I had like however many 35,000 watching on YouTube the previous week after having like nobody watching the first 3 weeks of the shows. But I'm still only one level popularity out of 100 possible. And so patience is going to have to be part of it. You never know, the computer might start auto-generating people with amusing names. Exceptional pre-show match. 47. Yeah, Amazing Red just hasn't been there for me this game, which is too bad because in real life, Red had a really impressive second half of his 2019. The Super J Cup match he had with Will Ospreay up in Washington State was outstanding. They didn't click. It's a poor gimmick with a thrill seeker, but oh well. At least we got the match, got the show off to a strong start, got the crowd hotter. I'll take that. So at least there should be some heat by the time we make it to the technical masterclass match, which I would think would be a positive. We'll see. At least the video's building some interest. Fantastic heat and great wrestling. That's a 45 because it went only less than 7 minutes. Danhausen not doing so well. But this is either his last night or he's got one more left. More about that later. Now my storytelling match. So Primo held back a little bit. You know, that's a good question, Spiderborg. I'm not sure if there's any sort of like a name censor so it doesn't accidentally or otherwise something that an offensive name. I mean, I'm sure you can mix it around like that, but I don't know. That's not what I'm particularly looking for. But that's the thing with this game; it's a wide range. So, but that's the long way of saying I'm not sure if you can use names of infamous people from the past. But thank goodness I was able to get the Rock and Roll Express under contract in there. And have him there. If it was like somebody else instead of Ricky Morton in there with this match, it would not have gotten a 45 in all likelihood. Unless I give him like Helms. Exceptional match. Oh, come on. What, I was supposed to place that match after the Clones? Oh, that's not good at all. Hang on. Make sure this thing's in the right place still. Downside. Such a pain. It does not need to be like this. Come on. Do one more thing. Come on. This is so frustrating sometimes. Being such a good game, this interface can be frustrating. Although this isn't the game's fault. This is more just not want to play nicely with OBS Studio and me screwing up pulling the thing out of the corner there. And that was my reaction to be mad to begin with when they gave this match that... See, I'm used to, like, if there's a secondary screen and pulling that down, that's what I want to do, but you don't get that here. So. But, you know, they got a 50, and it was max stardom. I don't think it had a match that high to date. Ultimately, when he started, came in at a 37, go like at a 63. That's absolute garbage. Piss off with that. ACH, all right. 49. So ACH will be back, not the next show, but the following one. I imagine it'll be ACH and TJ Perkins in some sort of tag match, provided that's not Impact running another show. I mean, come on. That's ridiculous to have him do this one again this week. But it's on me for not checking. God, that makes me mad. I mean, as much as a game that's really immaterial can make somebody mad. I clicked next segment 3 times. It's a rib? Oof. 26 performance for Helms. I mean, that makes Casanova look bad, but he had a higher performance level than that. If they don't click, that's fine. I won't rematch them. Declining physical ability, chemistry, and then they pinch us for having lower experience on the announce team. Praise I get put over. should have added Big Cass in there as well, and I didn't. Kind of telegraphed the finish, I suppose, but oh well. So I guess I ended up putting that hero segment below. This is where I could have really used TJP instead of having Yehai in there. I mean, they both had a 39. Shannon Moore in this game is not as good as I would think of him in real life, but he's also the inconsistency and declining physical ability point. Plus, the negative crowd reaction doesn't help. Exceptional match. Out of 54. I can't complain too much about that. Connor versus Big Cass going more than 12 minutes. And they both were better than the sum of their parts. As far as 43 to 51. Get the match ready at 54. Of course, the announcing helped Alicia Fox and Connor, which it's unfortunate that Connor's not able to go with her. Grant Connor's the guy that I've built up on this spot of the roster, but nevertheless, that's. But I don't know if they would have necessarily called up Connor anyway, even if he had been sent down, because I'm not sure if it gets to that level of detail. Like, it wasn't as if AEW sent to me Alicia Fox with Connor saying, make these two as a unit and make it happen. I guess the easiest way to justify, rationalize, whatever, however you want to think of it, look at it, in the grand scheme of things, is perhaps the main roster people weren't interested in having Connor up there. But Alicia Fox, they specifically sent her to me to get up to speed on her managerial skills, and she did so quickly. Match. It wasn't like she warned Hero to his face. It was just her grabbing a microphone to speak in her mind, which she's been very good at. How about that? 68. So they went to the time limit for the first time with the sprint championship in this game. And that works out. Keeps both of them strong. You can always come back to this later, and you know that they've got the strong first match under their belt to build on potentially. Still, the show seemed to work all right. We'll see in the dirt sheet. A lot of things working in our favor there. We can't win them all, but Velasquez, that's the idea in a real world, that you would have someone like Velasquez that's just trying to get a little bit more polished and ready to go. And then I really think it's a very minor at best announcing quality penalty, because they'll show you the list of the good and the bad, but they won't show you the degree of it. And by that I mean, how much effect it has on the overall score. But 68, I'll take it. Lost heat. Well, I guess that's what I get for doing that after a match with a 68 or whatever segment rating. It's all 53. Let's talk about the high heat. And that's just the on-screen slate of the full screens. Next week, Chris Hero defends the Launch World Championship against Connor. So the hype video for FTR, previously known as the Revival, against Jesse Goddard's and Kenny Doan. Goddard's and Doan aren't a real tag team in real life, but I thought I'd test them out as a unit, and we'll see how well Doan can perform in the main event. 21 popularity, so I went low with it. But I've got Cash and Dax maxed out at 55. At least for my company size, I can't get above that as far as for any of them. And then Jesse Goddard's at 41. Hopefully can carry the burden here. Oh, blown eardrum. Oh. That's not good at all. Okay, lesson learned there. That was an underwhelming main event. And yet, because my company's still so small, this is why I was willing to take chances like this, because even a low rating on the segment that may bring you down 4, 5, 6 points in the overall total score, it's still going to be well enough to boost me everywhere since I'm perceived as insignificant at this point. But as noted, that's the first defense by FTR for the Launch World Tag Team Championship. So we finished the show. The bad news is the blown eardrum. Oof. Oh, wow. So some heat on Goddard's. It's not going to help his stock any. But, so the overall is, say, 57. But, it could have been a 37, and I still would have had my popularity increase in all likelihood. I think the threshold is like 20-something to keep my spot on YouTube or something, just absurdly low. Or at least that's how it is for now. Well. Matt Bloom getting called up from his trainer role in NXT. He's going to go back to being Prince Albert. All right, enough of the jokes. Got an injury here. Can still perform. Okay. So there's that. Now, I'm not going to have him work for a few weeks. Unless I see some sort of a overwhelming reason to. But hopefully he can heal up a bit and then be back for the next title defense. So not ideal as far as the show goes. I think it's the lowest rated show to date, in large part because of that main event. $61,000 plus, up from 58,000, which was up from almost nobody. But hey, that's an extra, in excess of 2,000 additional viewers from the week before. It's a slow climb, but we'll get there. Let's see. Backstage. Yeah. Harwood and Goddard's was in tension. They gave me the same warning last month with the company's poor finances. But then that didn't matter because at the first of the month it got wiped to zero because this is a company that's owned and paid for as a developmental territory by All Elite Wrestling in this game. This is just the NXT naming machine, but with less creativity. The Urban Gladiators for phase 2. Okay. Well, let's see about my guys that they, I'm sure, utilized much more poorly than I would have with Impact. All this is was awesome, so let's see. This TJP got the win. Petey Williams is there. I was going to say, what? Who are the Rebels? There they are. Wrapping up this feed here momentarily. Call it Damian Priest. Okay, so we can get a week to fully heal. So he might be ready by next week, although I'm still inclined to give him a week off. I'll just have Cash work a singles match, or I'll figure out something with him. Charity show. Let's see who they have. Shota Umino showing up there. Shooter Umino. Keith Lee called up. You know, real life WWE might want to pay attention to some of this. They're just doing one call up after another. Oh, exclusive for Laredo Kid. Well, at least we got him for the one time. And that's going to steal him away from AAA and from Impact. What a coup for CMLL. Their new team names are ridiculous. But you can get past that if it means you're going to bring in a talent like Laredo Kid. I take it it's too late to negotiate anything else with him. Yeah. Yep, too late. That's okay. We have him for the one match. And he put over Lio Rush. That was that. I thought that's a WWE head of Bray Horse. I was like, what? No, that's Warrior Wrestling. Okay, so that's going to be it for episode number 10 of Lou Pickney Plays Total Extreme Wrestling 2020. Next time around, it's going to be week 3 of July 2020. And we'll go from there. So as always, thanks for watching. Thanks for checking it out. And we'll catch you next time for episode number 11 of Lou Pickney Plays Total Extreme Wrestling 2020. Have a good one.